What's good? You rocking with your boy Czar, All Rights Reserved. Now, I'm going to get into a separate part of why I feel that the slaughter of the superstar known as Tentacion occurred against the plan predicted. Now, it all has to do with the mastermind. There may have been a plot to take him out, but the mastermind had their own agenda. And when I say that, they knew that if he was left alive in this, again, as I stated earlier, number one, he'd figure out exactly who was involved. Number two, he had enough money to get activities done that could not only retaliate against the situation, but build a defense even if he retaliated. Let alone, he was no dummy. So with this occurring, there may have been blowback against the mastermind and everyone involved, even to the point of attacking back, because we know him as a fighter and someone that will fight back. But it's hard for me to believe he'd fight back in this situation, knowing that the weaponry explained was used against him. This is very important because we're still trying to figure out all of the mastermind. And yes, it was far more than one. Matter of fact, involved in this situation, I know for a fact investigators are not only looking at these four suspects, that they have other people in mind, and they're literally going through evidence to figure out a lot of what's going on. Now, I'm not saying I have all the documentation that they have, but at the same time, all of the documentation I have is public. So that means that it can be researched publicly with the right knowledge. So they may have something that's private, which makes it a little more intricate. So I'm thinking that they are on to a lot of the different plots that may have gone on around this situation. When I say that, they're not stuck. They're literally staying quiet because there's so much more to the situation than previously known. And when I mean that, I mean like so much more to the situation. These guys are not dumb in this situation. So the investigators' knowledge I did not find to be valid is validated. They are doing thorough investigations, thus why they're so silent. And to be real with you, a lot of people around the situation it's not just suspects that are running or hiding and sliding off. It's a lot of other people around it. And again, as I told you, I don't think Cleo's involved in any form of what's being delivered and her son being gone, more so than I think there's a situation of, let's say, undeniability of there being excess, let's say, people involved. That is why she is quiet. See, I think Cleo's not a dummy, and she realizes her son and some other people do have influence in the situation. That is thus why we see her so silent and playing her position. Now, from what I understand, she was in a controlling relationship, allegedly, from what was said. So this would be a good reason for her to be looking around her, truly wondering who may have been involved. This is a smart mother. Even if we want to say that all this stuff about, why is she acting this way? She's playing her situation very smart because she doesn't know who had malice against her and her son. So that would mean she's carefully examining evidence and putting two and two together. Why am I putting this series out like this in this way? It is because I believe that everything went against the nature of what was supposed to be done according to a separate mastermind plan. So even the mastermind was fooled to a mastermind plan, even though they were probably down with the cause to do something a certain way because they were influenced. I still don't think they were in direct influence to the point of blame, more so than neglect of the situation. Now everything went for broke and they're like, well, we can't take back what occurred. So now we have to, in a way, hide factors, hide details that may implicate other people in this situation, including us. It's about having dirt on someone. When someone has dirt on someone, they act within their favor. And I personally know this to be the truth because of different situations I'm dealing with aside that we will eventually get into. But I gotta say that the more detail that goes into this, it starts to spread like a spider web. And investigators are not dumb and know this part. So I can no longer say that it's neglect or some level of prejudice other than the information and evidence that they have received thus far. This is very important because it's going to help build a clear picture for them to alienate who's actually involved and what evidence they have that's not hearsay. Because hearsay evidence has to do with what they heard, what was released on social media. One of the main things we need to understand is about the witness and newscaster that were first on the scene. Also, I'm a little confused as to why the store manager would try to start doing CPR at that given time if he knew that they heard gunshots and things. There was a 911 call released by TMZ to someone to show why authorities showed up. But also, I'm aware that the hospital was located about 4 blocks away from Riva Motorsports. Now, why do I know this? It's because of other information I received on the side, that it was that close. I even have texts that Riva Motorsports was sending back and forth with someone who was asking direct questions. And according to these texts, it read very evasive. These texts did. And I'm not saying that they were involved, but there seems to be a lot of people who are trying to stay out the situation that had nothing to do with it. According to my evidence, I do not see direct fault in Riva Motorsports for what happened. More so than they probably too were fall guys mixed up in this situation, that their name was thrown in it. And, you know, with the way the evidence is being produced, it really does seem like they could be involved in a factor. And I'm not saying that they aren't, but looking at it in a circumstantial way, I do not see involvement other than why CPR would need to be performed by this individual on him. Did he see that Tentacion was still breathing? Did he see different factors that made him to think that? Now, if this is the case, it will bring me to the question, why was the witness so willing to put him up? And why didn't the witness jump to help rather than throw this on social media? The more information that's produced, and I'm understanding, it revolves around questioning the witness and the anchor that chose to do a story on the spot as if this situation did not occur. This is very serious. I find that serious because this is a young man's life that was taken for granted by a lot of different people around, especially a fanatic and an anchor that was not named. Now, this is serious because what's their connection? How are they relevant to the situation? The fact that Uncle is allegedly AWOL, this is very important. That is the next direct evidence of locale that they can pull to find some type of information to further the case. Now, the question and the title and understanding of this video is, was the mastermind in a different mindset to have his own agenda and let only a specific shooter know? Because from what I understand, one of the suspects, not to name them, hopped in the car and wanted to know why they killed him. Why would quote unquote heinous criminals think this mine? Why would any of them think this mine if it was to get a bag? And even if he wasn't giving up the bag and fighting back, where was the location of the money? Because we, till this time, were told it was not on him or around him. It was in the backseat of the car. Where did a close range engagement happen? Because I have legit pictures of the crime scene showing investigations, and the shells were dropped on both sides. So it looks as if shootings happen on both sides. So now to tell me the witness's story is a little shaky, but it's not only shaky, it's almost contradictory to how it actually went down. Now, you said this was surety as if you seen it. You didn't say it like you heard it. See, Riva Motorsports said they heard shots, and I read their text. They heard it. Riva Motorsports heard it. You said you saw it, and then you ran inside. You basically were saying you were running, but you also saw that he said, "What the F?" And then shots rang out. This is disturbing because now this witness named Victor that we spoke about earlier seems to be a kink in the understanding of what actually happened. Even if he was interrogated, did he tell the truth? Because that's my thing. This witness seemed like he was telling this story to get something off of his chest more than to tell this story verbatim from what happened. So when you guys look at that story and you see the witness speaking, he needs to be spoken to again. And he needs to get his story right. There was something wrong about his story. And that is why I claimed earlier that the witness seemed to be involved. And now that more evidence is coming out on what actually happened, his story seems more questionable. You said they blocked him in from both sides. Was that both sides in the front? Because I also seen the picture and I seen one with the gate closed. But in this investigation, the gates was wide open. Even in this picture I have with the cell casings. What, they opened the gates when authorities came and let him out for broke and left him all alone when it was going down? That's kind of confusing. That's the only confusion I have with Riva Motorsports. Why'd you close the gate when it happened? Because if that was the case, from the setup of Riva Motorsports, he would have been locked out of the gates. That would have been his only escape, to back up through the gates, to stay away from who was blocking him off from the front. This is the only curiosity I'm pulling. And this curiosity is big. Excuse me. This curiosity is big because it's a lot of issues involving the way evidence was detailed by quote unquote direct evidence figures. So this witness needs to be ran through the ringer again and to see what he was actually talking about, as well as the identity of that newscaster needs to come out, because you were asking very broad questions. How'd you even know to show up? What news station were you working for? I'm thinking this is going to begin to reveal a different type of picture for what actually happened when these guys are interrogated. If it doesn't match up with what you said on social media and released, then that needs very much so questioned. Let alone, you need to be examined for everything you're saying, because it's not making sense. From all the documents and evidence I have, the shakiest people that were first on the scene, such as the uncle, the witness, and the news anchor, were not making sense with what the evidence looked like. So somebody, can you give me their names, point them out, ask them what actually happened, because I'm not seeing where they were telling the truth. And that's the factor of what I have for you about the masterminds. You know how I rock. I have more coming on the way. For now, this is what I have releasing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Everybody, rock with me. All rights reserved.